for March 18th, 2024. Ms. Sauber, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl.
Here.
Dr. Graff.
Here.
Dr. Rohr.
Here.
Megan Sparks.
Here.
Mrs. Sternbach.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl.
Yes.
Dr. Graff.
Yes.
Dr. Rohr.
Yes.
Megan Sparks.
Yes.
Mrs. Sternbach.
Yes. First up, we have some honors and building reports.
All right, good evening. So tonight we have an opportunity to honor 3 of our students tonight. It's really exciting to have this opportunity to recognize some students that we have in the district who competed in the regional spelling bee. And so it's an honor to be able to recognize our students. To recognize our middle school students who actually participated and performed very, very well in the regional spelling bee. The regional spelling bee was held on March the 6th at Wright State University. Against our students competed against 47 other competitors in the spelling bee, and as I mentioned earlier, did really, really well and competed against students all across the Dayton region. So we'd like to recognize all 3 of the students tonight. I'm going to have the students to please come forward, and we'll recognize and have a certificate for you once your name is called. First, I want to introduce Ben Schwartz. Now, Ben is not in here with us right now. He's actually a 6th grader at Tower Heights. He's in the gym playing the saxophone. So he is a little bit busy, but Ben finished in 11th place. Benny, as he's known by his friends, is the son of Cynthia Finley and Alex Schwartz. So congratulations to Ben Schwartz. Second is Siddharth Singh. Siddharth? He's an 8th grader at Magsic Middle School, and he finished in 4th place. And Sid's parents are Petri and Asusha Singh. And finally, we're proud to announce our first place regional spelling bee champion, Aurora Spizak. Rory will advance to the 2024 Scripps National Spelling Bee semifinals, which will be held in Washington, D.C. on May the 29th. So congratulations. Great job.
Congratulations.
So again, just congratulations to our spelling bee winners and their families. Thank you.
Next up, we have a report from our maintenance department with Mr. Dom.
I'm Mark Dom, Assistant Business Manager for the school district. Mr. Kogel often talks about our facilities, so I thought it might be nice for everyone to see the faces of the team that keeps those facilities running. So I'll start down on this end. This is Chris Kingsolver. Actually, today it was Chris's first day as our new electrician. He made it back tonight, so that's a good sign. Chris actually worked on some of our facilities before when he worked for Ready Electric. The last 8 years, he's been working for the city of Cincinnati on all their high voltage work. One unique thing about Chris is he trained our previous electrician when they were at Ready Electric, Corey Perry, which I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Corey. He was here with us for 7 years, did a great job at troubleshooting problems, had an opportunity to start his own company, and we wish him the best with that. So we have Chris. Next to Chris, we have John Takich. John has his HVAC certification, but he's more of a general maintenance guy for us. He worked for a commercial builder. He owned his own remodeling company. We had the opportunity to bring him in as a general maintenance guy, so a lot of the work that he does, he may work on doors, he does some concrete work, he does a little bit of everything. Next to him is Matthew Knox. Matthew is our mail courier, food service courier. So he runs all the inter-school mail. He runs food from Klein's main kitchen throughout the district. He also manages the custodial supplies, so he gets all the custodial supplies come into the main warehouse at central office. He delivers them out to the school. Then on days when there are no teachers or students, he works with the maintenance department. In the summer, he works with us on the grounds crew. Scott Williams. Scott is another one of our general maintenance guys, but he holds his licensure for pesticide and herbicide applications. He's also our playground inspector. He started with the district as a custodian, worked his way up to groundskeeper. Now he's a skilled maintenance man. He's been with us for a while. He's probably one of the most senior guys on the maintenance staff. But again, he'll work on door hardware. He's our locksmith. He's just kind of a jack of all trades. Next, we have Johnny Mack, John McNamara. He's a Marine, first of all, but he's our HVAC specialist, second. Not only is he certified in HVAC, but he holds his programmer's license through Niagara Software, which is the software that runs our HVAC equipment. He also works on the refrigeration equipment for our food service department. Brian Carroll. Brian worked construction before he came to us as a custodian. He worked with us many years as a custodian. The last few years, he's been our groundskeeper with our athletic department. So he's responsible for all the grounds, the fields. He cleans up after events. He sets up for events. So anything athletic-wise with the grounds, Brian's responsible. Next to him is Mark Brown. Mark started out working for a print shop. After that, he actually worked for John and his remodeling company, so it was a good pickup. We got 2 for 1. But Mark is another general maintenance guy. If you look at Mark, Scott, and John, they do a lot of the same responsibilities. They all work on doors. They do monthly safety checks on the doors. They do monthly safety checks on our generator systems. They take care of all the maintenance and repair of our snow equipment, our landscaping equipment, our custodial equipment. You name it, they're probably part of it. When there's, if Johnny Mack needs help with replacing a compressor on one of his rooftop units, they may jump in there. Rob Engel, who's our plumber, if he needs help replacing pumps, they may jump in there, help him pull those big pumps. So those 3 guys, they just kind of do whatever's needed. We do have 2 guys that couldn't make it tonight. Brad Courtney, who is our maintenance man that stays solely here at Centerville High School. He started out as a repairman for manufacturing equipment. So he repaired tool and die equipment, he repaired CNC machines. He owned his own remodeling company. We were able to pick him up, and he does all the maintenance here. Now, sometimes he may need some help with electric. He may need some help with the HVAC equipment. But anything maintenance-wise, Brad takes care of at Centerville High School. Rob Engel, I mentioned before, is our district plumber. Rob's kind of a unique individual. He has an associate degree in HVAC engineering. He has a bachelor's degree in business from Ohio State. He couldn't make it tonight because he's taking his last class to get his MBA. But he decided a long time ago he didn't like sitting in a cubicle. So he obtained his plumber, pipe fitter, welder certifications, and he's our district plumber. So this is a team. These guys do a little bit of everything and a lot of the things that nobody else wants to do. They might fill potholes, they plow snow, they cut grass, whatever it is. Mr. Wesney, when he came to the business office, he hung a sign in there that says, when people ask you what you do, respond whatever it takes. These guys are a great representation of that statement. So thank you again for giving us the opportunity to introduce these guys to you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Wait, hey, Mark, if you guys will wait just a second. So I just think it's important to share. We have 9 very talented maintenance guys across the district, 14 different buildings across the district that they get to serve and to make sure everything functions. Today, I know a lot of you moved some chairs, some musical instruments and equipment to the gym. That was mentioned a few minutes ago by Mr. Barametti. So I just want to say thanks for the work that you do, the time you put in. It's very much appreciated. And Mark Dom, thank you for taking care of that crew and make sure that they have jobs to do and keeping them busy. So we appreciate everything that you do for us.
Thank you. Certainly. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public participation. Board of Education recognizes the value to school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. The presiding officer, myself, of each board meeting at which public participation is permitted shall administer the following rules. The portion of the meeting for participation shall be limited to 30 minutes. Attendees must register in advance, which they have. Individuals may not register others to speak, and no participant may speak more than once. Participants must first be recognized and will be requested to preface their comments by an announcement of their name and whether the participant is a resident or non-resident, and if appropriate, their group affiliation. Each statement should be limited to 3 minutes or less, and we do have a timer on the screen for you as well to see. And the board will listen to all who speak, but generally not engage in discussion or dialogue at this time. Matters requiring follow-up will be directed to the superintendent. We have 5 speakers signed up this evening, and first up is Ms. Bucher.
Good evening. My name is Erin Bucher, and I am currently serving as the principal at Driscoll Elementary. I'm also a resident of Centerville and have been since graduating from college and starting my teaching career here as an intervention specialist at Watts Middle School. After attending the community forums and volunteering for the campaign committee, I felt compelled to share a simple yet crucial message: the importance of passing our school levy tomorrow from an administrator's point of view. Issue 18 isn't just about funding our schools. It's about safeguarding the very essence of our Centerville education system, protecting its quality, services, and programming. Passing Issue 18 isn't merely about maintaining the status quo. It's about ensuring progress and prioritizing the well-being of our students. By voting for this levy, we are affirming our commitment to smaller class sizes, which allow teachers to provide individualized attention and to support every student. It also means investing in mental health resources, counseling services, and extracurricular activities that nurture not just academic growth, but also social and emotional development that is so widely needed. In 2024, our educational landscape looks vastly different from what it did even just 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 20 years ago. Technology advancements, shifts in societal norms, increased responsibilities of educators, evolving pedagogical approaches, and yes, a pandemic have reshaped the way we educate our children. However, amidst these changes, one thing remains constant: the commitment to our district mission of empowering, challenging, and supporting every learner to grow every day. Each one of us here today has a stake in the outcome of this levy. As parents, community members, educators, board members, and administrators, we all rely on our schools to fulfill their mission. Yet the ability to do so is under attack. We face the daunting prospect of having to do the same, or even more, with less and less. And to be frank, I am personally fearful of such a scenario. I have attended and participated in many levy events leading up to this primary. I have heard voters' concerns. There have been numerous accusations of wasteful spending. As a building principal in this district for almost 6 years, I just don't see it. I rely heavily on my PTO volunteers to support teachers' requests for anything extra. I have carpet in my building that is likely older than I am. Most desks and chairs are worn, chipped, or cracked with no money in the budget to replace them. Collectively, my staff and I spend thousands of dollars of our own money each year to supplement lessons and/or purchase items for students or for the building. There is also a prevalent misconception that the district just needs to tighten its belt. It's just not that simple. Despite our school budget being mostly salaries and benefits, we have taken measures to cut back since the November failure. So far this year, not only have I been the principal, I've also served as the second shift custodian, taking out the trash after a day full of spreading kindness celebrations for Valentine's Day, the building secretary, answering phones, attending to visitors, and securing substitutes for the next day, as well as a clerical aide covering numerous duties throughout the building in addition to my own, and supporting teachers with their projects, since we've been unable to have substitutes for them. I've had to deny my 4th graders a field trip to Camp Kern, a Driscoll rite of passage for 4th graders for many years. And I won't even bother going into the weeds about Ohio's unconstitutional school funding model.
Thank you, Ms. Bucher. I'm sorry.
Sorry, didn't finish, but thank you.
Ms. Barrett.
Hi, I'm Allison Barrett. I am a resident of Centerville, and I am representing parent and staff PTO in support of our schools. Choices. Each one of us here tonight is here because of a series of choices that we've made. We chose to come to this meeting tonight in hopes of learning more. The commonality in each of us here tonight is our choices have led us to live here. We chose to be a part of Centerville, Ohio, and why we chose to live here might be different, but by living in Centerville, we chose to be a part of a community of hardworking, kind, dedicated individuals who believe that our community is important and that our community is indeed the best. The heartbeat of this community is our schools. When I meet new people that live in Centerville and at some point the conversation goes, I hear, we chose Centerville over all the other places that we could have lived because of our schools. My husband and I are no different. Neither one of us grew up in the area. We chose to live and invest ourselves and our family into this community. I walked into the school of PVN when we first started to visit the schools to see where we would send our kid, our first kiddo, and I was in awe. It was a school that was built for him, his size, his personality, and to meet his academic needs. The teachers were dedicated to him as much as they were to our daughter that came after and to our last kiddo who is there now in that same building. They each have learned to love school there. That's our job. The teachers were able to teach, create learning experiences because they had the support of their Centerville community behind them. Those same teachers need that same support. That's our job as individuals and community members that live in Centerville, so that we can live in the best community, a community that supports and allows teachers, administration, and staff to support, challenge, and empower their students to go and be the best, to be the change makers that our world needs. So when my husband and I became parents, we agreed to be parents that said yes to all those that always needed help. So our decision to support the levy is an easy one. It's the one that we made years ago when we chose to be a part of this amazing community. This special place is one that we will continue to show up for, to say yes for, because it's the very least that we can do for the schools that have already given us and our family so much. Thank you.
Next is Ms. Matthews.
Hi, my name is Leah Matthews. I'm a senior here at the high school and I've been in the Centerville district since kindergarten. I'm here to share why I will be voting for the school levy tomorrow and why I'm encouraging others to do the same. As a second-generation Centerville student, I've had many meaningful experiences in the district. I've been given countless opportunities to grow in all aspects of life. Of course, I've benefited from the strong academics that Centerville provides, but it goes way beyond that. Extracurriculars, career tech programs, and clubs are all big parts of the high school experience that shapes each of us. It allows us to explore things we have not otherwise had exposure to. For example, Centerville Schools has allowed me to pursue my passion for dance through both athletic and arts programs. I've been fortunate to be part of the marketing program as well, which has allowed me to find my passion for the business field and earn a spot at my dream university. Centerville additionally provides many opportunities for all students with clubs like Dance for All, which allows special needs students the opportunity to dance. From day to day at the high school, students are encouraged to join clubs and get involved as they serve as one of the main ways to make connections with other students and find their interests. My generation faces many challenges that prior ones did not. Safety, mental health, and rapidly changing technology majorly affect current students. I see how hard the staff works to make sure students feel seen and get the support they need. Staff provides equal opportunities for each of us to find our people. They help us create a foundation that we will build off of each year, carrying us forward as we enter new stages in our life. I will be voting for this levy because cuts in staff will erode the foundation and will impact students coming after my class, therefore weakening the Centerville community that everyone knows and loves. Thank you. University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Busher. Said that right?
I'm a resident of Washington Township, and we're paying a lot of taxes over there. We have 60,000 residents in there versus Centerville was around 30. And we don't feel like we're getting represented here much because the school says Centerville on there. The library says Centerville, and in the bottom it has Washington Township. So Centerville is basically, they're all built out. They have nowhere else to go. All the land that's going to be developed is in Washington Township. So you're going to have more residents coming into there, more taxpayers, more students, but we are not represented. I don't want to be associated with Centerville. I live in Washington Township. The fire department we share, the library we share, schools we share, but we are not mentioned anywhere on the front of this building. So I don't consider myself a Centervillian. I live in the township. Second, the funding method I don't think is very good either. The more house you have, the more you're taxed for the school. So when you start out small, you buy a small house, you get successful, you move up to a bigger home. It should be a equal share, I don't know, $3,000 per house or apartment or condo. And if you figure about 60,000 people, that's $180 million. You ought to be able to run the school on $180 million or something like that. But these retirees, they want to live in these houses and age in place. It's making it very hard to do that, and we cannot rely on Columbus to solve these problems. And those are basically two things. I'm not against the levy. I'm just saying we're not represented at all in the township. And the funding method, you guys you all have PhDs and things, you better figure out a better way to fund these schools because it's a failing system. That's why the the private schools are succeeding so much better than a lot of public schools. The rich guys send their kids to private schools because they want a better education. So we're going to have to figure out the strong will survive. And things need to be changed. We cannot keep the status quo going forever because eventually we're going to be hitting 75% of our taxes going to the schools, and that's not going to float with a lot of people. So, no one ever wants to come up here and say anything negative. Well, I'm the one apple in the basket that doesn't want to take no. I want something done. Plus, maybe we could trim. There's 30 members in the school board office. What happens if we got rid of them and hired a private firm to handle all the duties and keep you as the board, but dole out those jobs to a private thing where we have more cost control on it? Everything doesn't have to be a public entity. We got, public roads, fire, we need that, but office type work can be done by a lot of firms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you may want to go back on your history. These schools used to be called the Washington Township School District. Maybe before you moved here, I don't know. This Washington Township School District for decades, it just changed in maybe the late 60s or early 70s to Centerville. I happen to live in Washington Township, so I represent your interest just as much as any others. I think some other board members also in Washington Township. Not all of them are in Centerville.
Right. I want to get some kind of name recognition here because there's a lot of people that don't associate with Centerville.
I'm saying.
Township.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Peters.
Hi, Mark Peters. I'm a resident. First, I'd like to thank the board, Mr. Wesney, Ms. Sauber, and really all of the administrative staff. Over the last 3 months, you've helped to educate the community on the realities of school funding within Ohio. These efforts have allowed the discussion about this levy to progress away from the large amount of disinformation to conversations about the inequities of Ohio school funding. Where have we been and where are we at now? It was said our taxes are going up 30% given our new county valuation. Why does the district need any more money? Well, in reality, taxes didn't go up 30%. Only the inside millage went up while the individual homeowner level All voted levies may go up or down, depending upon that change relative to the average. But in the end, the school receives the same amount of money. It was said enrollment is trending down, therefore school district needs less money. Well, in reality, 2023-2024 enrollment is within 24 students of the district's maximum enrollment over the past 10 years. It was said the district is asking for money they don't need because their cash balance. Well, in reality, Centerville's 2023 cash balance as a percentage of expense was 29% versus the county average of 48%. This means the district isn't holding more money of our cash. What it means is, in fact, they're being good stewards of our money. But it also means that when as a community, we don't support the schools through increased funding, you will see immediate impacts to the services that are provided to students. It was said career track programs are a waste and should be cut from the budget. In the reality, the career tech program is a state mandated program that every student needs to have an opportunity to participate in. The fact that the CCS career tech program is a cheaper alternative for the people within Centerville and Washington Township. If Centerville City Schools didn't have that career tech program, you would have to go to the county program, which currently charges $2.99 million to the surrounding community. What does that $2.99 million equal? $8.5 million. How much does career tech cost us? It costs us less than $2 million. About 20% of that cost is what it cost us. So once again, Centerville City Schools is very efficient with our money. There are so many more examples of misinformation which have been addressed that I don't have time to mention. The reality is that many who oppose the levy want you to believe there's nothing but gross inefficiencies within our schools. It's simply not the case. The reality is most inefficiencies that do exist are driven by unfunded state mandates. State Representative Tom Young had no answers for what they are doing to fix the mess they created in Columbus. They are simply creating more messes, like providing CCS less than $1,500 per student in state funding for high school students versus $8,400 to private schools for ed choice. If you're a family of four making $135,000. The state legislature is picking winners and losers, and unfortunately for us, in Centerville, Washington Township, we are the losers when it comes to state funding. I'm running out of time here, but Ms. Sauber, Mr. Wesley, entire board, your work should be commended day in and day out. You ask for money based on forward-looking forecast and try to best predict the needs of Centerville students. This isn't a corporation. We can't reduce the student population to save money. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Next up, we have a public notice. The Centerville City School District Board of Education hereby gives public notice in accordance with Section 3307.353 of the Ohio Revised Code. The Special Education Coordinator, Kelly Henry, and Tracy, Booker, Transportation Aide, both are currently employed by the Board of Education, will be retiring and seeking reemployment with the Centerville School District in the same position following service retirement. The Board of Education will hold a public meeting on the issue of reemploying Kelly Henry and Tracy Booker at the Board of Education meeting on Monday, April 22nd, 2024, located here in the South Unit of Centerville High School at 500 East Franklin Street, beginning at 7 p.m. Next up, we will go into our board and administrative reports, starting with the legislative report with Mrs. Sparks.
Not much to report on since the primary election is tomorrow and there's a lot of campaigning currently happening. The State Board of Education, SOBE, held a public meeting this week. State Superintendent of Public Education, Paul Kraft, updated the board on its financial status and outlook for the rest of the biennium year. Current projections from the SBOE show that the board will have $3.5 million deficit by year's end. The SBOE will consider raising licensure fee to minimize financial losses. Just to reiterate, this is the state school board, not Centerville School Board. There is a new bill, House Bill 445, that has been proposed. This bill is about school district policies for release time courses and religious education instruction. And that is the end of the report. Thank you.
Good evening. Just to a couple of quick reminders from myself and Mr. Wesney. We have just the disclaimer that we've been using for months and months, just to remind all of you that this information is factual in nature. As district personnel, we're not allowed to advocate for or against the passage of a levy, during times in which we're being compensated. So this is to provide the board and the community with factual information. As Mrs. Sparks mentioned, tomorrow is Election Day. March 19th is the primary election. Centerville City Schools is on the ballot, issue 18, for 3.9 mils of operating, specifically for operating expenses. The annual revenue to be generated from this levy will be $11.2 million if it passes. The cost is about $11.40 per month per $100,000 of home value as appraised by the county auditor, and that is current reappraisal since the reappraisal process. There is a lot of information on our website that people that are looking for FAQs can go and take a look at.
All right, I have the next steps after the election. And so I think Mrs. Booker really said it best. We still have a mission to follow. And I think as moving forward, we're going to continue to meet the needs of our students, meet our mission by empowering, challenging, and support our students each and every day. So I think that's important for people to understand, is that we've always kept that mission in the forefront as we made decisions on how to move forward from the past November campaign. As you know, we are currently working on the first phase of our reduction plan that the board approved back in January. That will be a cost savings for the district of about $1.3 million based upon retirements and resignations that we have received so far throughout the district. I've said this several times. We'll have to continue to look at recruiting new staff at the lowest possible salary possible. Mr. Tarpey and the HR department has already done a lot of work getting out to the universities, meeting some of our youngest educators in the profession, and trying to get them a chance to interview for positions within our district. We're going to have positions that we're going to have to fill, and obviously we want to try to fill those with the best possible candidates that we can possibly find. We've also talked about the what-ifs a little bit. The what-ifs is if the levy doesn't pass and we had to make the initial, not just the initial, but the second phase of our reduction plan. That's looking at another $1.6 million in addition to the $1.3 million that we have in our phase one. That would be another 26 positions across the district. So again, those are kind of where we are from a district right now. With our phase one production or our phase one reduction plan, and what would happen if the levy would happen to fail tomorrow. We'll continue to have discussions with the board and to keep the community informed as we move forward after the election, but that kind of gives you a little bit of an update as far as where we are right now, and we'll wait and see what the results are tomorrow. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Next up is Mr. Arrow.
Good evening. So tonight we're going to talk about our homeless population here in Centerville. We do this every year. It's just part of it is a notice to let people know who to contact if they become homeless while living here. But part of it is also just to share information with the community. So tonight I decided to make the report look a little bit different than what we have done in the past, because there are things that are required by the state for us to do for our homeless students. So the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was passed in 2018, defines and gives us what homeless can be. So you can see that we can have homeless. You know, we can have people staying in campgrounds, we can have them staying in shelters, they might be staying in public places, sometimes in bus or train stations, or shared housing, which is considered doubled up. Fixed, regular, and adequate housing means that our families need that. What we're actually looking at is there housing available all the time, so they're able to stay there on a permanent basis and not have to move from night to night or week to week or month to month. Regular is predictable, right, and routine. So that means that our students need to be able to go home and they know where that home is going to be. And adequate is lawfully and reasonably sufficient. Physical and psychological needs typically met in the home environment. So all of those things are the things that play into factor in determining whether students are homeless. School selection. So when someone is living here, let's say that, you know, I'm living here and I've been renting somewhere and now I get a notice that, you know, the property is being sold and I am no longer going to be able to rent from there because the new owner is not going to make it a rental. Then what actually happens is if I don't have another place to go and stay, I get to decide as a family, where should my child be going to school? We know that consistent education is important. So usually what happens is when I become homeless here, I might have a family member that lives in Dayton City, and I might go stay there. Well, that doesn't mean that I go to Dayton Public Schools. It means that I have the option to stay here and attend school in Centerville. Which brings in the next point for us, and that is transportation. So as you will see, we are required to transport our students who are homeless to and from school. So that family that is maybe staying in Dayton at this point in time because they were residing here and going to school here, we now need to get them to school. It's not on them to get themselves here to school. It is on us as a district to get them to school. So as a district, we have transported from different places. We work with neighboring districts. So when we have families that are maybe a little bit farther away, so, you know, we've had some families before that might be like in Lebanon, or other places, then we'll work with neighboring districts to see if we can meet up with transportation and not have to travel that whole distance upon ourselves. It's just an agreement that we try to work out. There have been some situations where it doesn't work out quite that well, but it is required. So one of the things I want everyone to understand is it's not like we have an option in this. We are looking at what the best interest is for the student, which is why we are required to do this. Now we'll talk just a little bit about our data. So we have stayed relatively consistent with our homeless population over the years. You know, I went all the way back to 2020. You know, we stay right around in that 30 mark. Right now we're at 28. 2022, you know, our number dropped, which I'm a little surprised on, especially after coming out of the pandemic, but there was a drop in 2022. Most of our families are actually doubled up. However, you know, as of right now, we do have families that are staying in homeless shelters. We have some families that are staying in a hotel, and then the rest are doubled up. So the doubled up means that, you know, they are staying at usually a relative, sometimes a friend's house, and that is where they reside. So if you would happen to know anyone that is having a hardship with their housing or has been evicted, or, you know, there has been a fire or any other natural, you know, disaster that causes that, then the best person to actually notify would be the building principals and the school guidance counselors. They are actually our first line for knowing who our homeless students are. At a district level, I can be contacted, or Tom Castleman can be contacted. So we all work together to make sure that our families are getting the additional support that they need, and that their child can get to and from school every day. Any questions? So if you go to the state and talk to them about it is for as long as they are doubled up. So if they are doubled up and they do not have a permanent residence all the way through their senior year, then that is our responsibility. We do look at it every year, and we do try to verify with them, like, you know, did they get a place? Do they now have things in their name in that place? Because that becomes different. But if they do not and they remain doubled up, then it is our responsibility for the high school career.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Morgan.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to discuss the resolution for the technology purchase of student Chromebooks that is on the agenda for tonight. For those in the public and others that are here, we have a program that we use to maintain our fleet of student computers. We have about 8,400, give or take, student devices that students take with them to their classrooms. They're allowed to take them home to use them for homework, and part of this process is maintaining that fleet. And as a student is a rising third grader or a rising eighth grader, we issue a new Chromebook to them, and that Chromebook is intended to last the student for 5 years. And at the end of that 5-year cycle, that equipment is reacquired by the district, and we use those outdated computers and Chromebooks for parts. And those parts then are used within our department to maintain broken screens and broken keyboards, and that's a necessary part of the equipment that we use to keep that fleet in operation and in good working order, so that when it comes time for the student to do something in class, it's working the way it needs to. When it comes time to take an assessment, the Chromebook is working the way that it's supposed to. So this batch of Chromebooks will go towards that rising third and rising eighth grade group. We do have another batch of touchscreen computers that are for our youngest students, for our kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. Those computers are really well preserved because they typically stay in the classroom. They don't travel home. And so, one, they don't have as many repairs or damage. And two, they don't have the same testing requirements that our older students have. And so we have now cycled those Chromebooks. We're starting on our second cycle. So those Chromebooks are already 6 years old that we're going to be reusing again, and we'll continue to use them as long as we can. So again, the point there is we're using all of these pieces. They're used to maintain the fleet, and this is part of the program that we've designed and had in place for several years now. Is there any questions that I can answer? No? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
And finally, Mr. Kogel.
Good evening. The first piece tonight is dealing with our electrical rate. Really what we're asking for tonight is just a resolution that allows us to work with the EPC to provide that resolution. Allows us to work with the EPC so that we can sign when we find that time is right. Currently our contract is for 0.033 cents. To put that in perspective, what the city of Centerville just released for the Centerville Washington Township community, that price was almost double that. And so we've been very fortunate to have a great rate. But again, that contract that we currently have expires in December of 24. And so we've got to look at other options and trying to find the right time, when the best time is to sign that next agreement. We have looked at other options. We've done projects in our district Mr. Don mentioned that Johnny Mack works with our system, HVAC system, puts in some regulations and controls to make sure that we're using our energy efficiently. That's one. We also have looked at solar as options as well. And one of those options, the payback was over 20 years before we started to see the money or the profit from that, which didn't really seem feasible. The other was just the amount of space that it would take in order to provide solar panels here at Centerville High School, for example. They wanted a 428 by 428 foot space in order to give us a cost, which again, it's just not feasible. If you look at Klein, they're looking at 175 by 175, which takes up part of the practice field, et cetera, that we have there. And so really we're just looking for permission to sign this agreement when it comes into place. Unfortunately, I think there will be an increase likely, but we're looking at guidance from the EPC and their 277 members, the committee that they have on energy as part of this process. They do work with experts in the field, and I'll show you a chart here in just a second that kind of explains that. So if you look here between 2019 and 2020 at that small yellow blip where that takes a downturn, that is where we signed our agreement, our 3-year agreement, that it will expire, like I mentioned, in December of 2024. The electrical energy prices are based on the natural gas. And right now, currently, we have enough natural gas in storage. The United States does for this year, for next year. And as part of that process, Chesapeake Bay, which is the largest natural gas supplier, has made some cuts and made some reductions. And because of that, there's been a small spike. But we're looking at these numbers and looking at these projections to make a decision on when the best time to sign. And your resolution tonight, that if you approve, would just allow us to make that decision with the help of the EPC that they're working with on behalf of their 277 members. Questions?
Earlier that you're, or I guess the EPC experts are expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 cents.
We're hoping
it's
for
a
less than
moving
that.
target,
Yeah,
but-
hoping for less than that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And they won't know when that'll be set until the market.
It was down close to that prior to that spike when Chesapeake Bay announced that they were going to do a 20% cut in their production.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was getting close. We felt like we were close to signing and making an agreement. But again, they still feel like the projections show that cost will continue to go down. Next is our lights at the football stadium, the track stadium here at the high school. Those poles that we have out there are original to the stadium, and with one in particular, we've had some ongoing issues. We've had a number of corrective attempts, the first going back all the way to 2015, where we realized that one of the nuts, one of the bolts was coming undone, and we welded that back into place. That again happened in 2018. Where it was welded back into place. And then in 2021, that pole was actually loose and was leaning. There was conversation. There was a plan in place to get that corrected, but there was a plan in place to actually move a football game in case we did not get that done. The wind happened to blow the right direction, blew it back into place. I think Mr. Westney had a video of that at one point, but couldn't locate it for the video tonight. But anyway, we blew it back into place, and we were able to weld it back into place. We have looked at for a number of years trying to go through a process to replace that pole. We've looked at options recently in the last year of replacing just the one pole that we've had the issues with, replacing 4 poles, replacing 2 poles, replacing lights, and we've made a decision to replace the 2 poles on the visitor side. We've got a couple pictures here. One is those poles, and then one is a close-up version where you can see that it's kind of mounted in the hillside, and that's the bolts and the large nuts that we're having the issues with. We've gotten a couple of different prices, like I said. The one is through Musco, which is the same company that did our lights and poles at Legacy Field. We asked them for pricing. Their pricing for one pole and then replacing all of the lights with LED lights, again, which will be part of a cost savings for us and for the district, was $528,300. We also reached out to NGU, Never Give Up Sports Lighting. We had an estimate from them to replace 2 poles, the visitor side poles, the one that we currently have a lot of the issues with, and then the second pole on the visitor side that is also kind of in the hillside, replacing both those poles, replacing all 4 sets of lights that, again, are LED, more direct and more focused onto the field and the track for $425,000. And so tonight, as part, we're asking you to approve a resolution through Sourcewell and through NGU Sports Lighting Company to go ahead and move forward. Our plan and our hope is to have this completed before at the end of track season, before the 4th of July Americana Festival here.
Cost will be coming out of permanent improvement.
Yes, the $425,000 will be paid for from the PI fund.
All right. Any other questions?
And the reason to do this versus some other projects is this is really a safety issue.
This is a safety issue.
If this goes down when there's people in the stands,
it would
cost us a lot more money.
It certainly would. It certainly would, and the insurance rate would go up quite a bit substantially as well. Yes, yeah. It's something that we've looked at and we've tried to address. Again, we have routine checks to make sure that those welds have not broken loose, but it's something we can't. Anytime that the wind's blowing like today, you wonder whether or not it's today the day. And so yes, we've got to get it addressed. We've got to get it taken care of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to treasurer's recommendations. Consider approving the February 2024 financial statements, including the monthly general fund rolling report, monthly cash reconciliation, monthly fund activity report, then and now purchase orders approved by administration, certified by the treasurer, and supported by board resolution totaling $16,504.16. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider approving the minutes of the following Board of Education meetings: February 26th, 2024, regular meeting. May I have a motion?
So, second.
I'm sorry, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider approving a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor for tax year 2024-2025. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Sauber, this is a regular item.
This is a yearly item that we approve every March, and it's a county auditor requirement that we have a list of existing tax levies.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider approving resolutions authorizing the filing of original complaints against tax valuation pursuant to revised code 5715.19 for the properties as listed in the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Sauber, could you
want some
just
discussion on it? Yes, just a few points about this. This is new to the board. Every year we have the duty or opportunity to file increased complaints on commercial properties for properties that are undervalued according to the county auditor. Usually what happens is the property changes ownership, so there's a sale, and it's valued at a lower cost on the auditor's website, and it was sold for a higher value. In the past, this is a process that I've just handled internally, but there's recent legislation now that requires me to bring this to the Board of Education for approval on that.
And we do not do this for residential
We
properties.
do not do this for residential properties, only commercial value. There's a separate effective rate for commercial value, so this doesn't affect homeowners at all.
All right. Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Superintendent recommendations. These can all go at once. The superintendent recommends accepting resignations as listed on Schedule A. Superintendent recommends the change of employment status or change of contract status for the certificated personnel listed on Schedule B for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. The superintendent recommends the employment or change of employment status for the support staff personnel listed on Schedule C for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. Superintendent recommends the employment of the personnel listed on Schedules D and D1 for supplemental contracts or extra duty assignments. And the superintendent recommends the granting of leaves of absence for the personnel listed on Schedule E for the reason and on the dates given. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider authorizing continued membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association for the 2024-2025 school year.
So moved.
Second.
And this is a minor correction to a previous vote.
That is correct. We discussed this last month, but this is our membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. It's approved every year. It's an annual resolution that is required by the district.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider approving a resolution stating that Centerville City Schools does not intend to provide career technical education to students enrolled in grades 7 and 8 for the 2024-2025 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
And this was discussed previously at our work session earlier this evening. It's an annual resolution.
That's correct. It's an annual resolution that we are required to present to the Ohio Department of Education or the Ohio Department of Workforce and Development. Really just talks about we do not offer CTE 26 courses, which is the career education courses like we have here at the high school for our juniors and seniors. We do provide some career exploration opportunities for our students at the middle school, but we don't have plans right now or future plans at this stage to offer the actual courses for career technical education in the middle schools.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider a resolution authorizing Centerville City Schools to administer the State of Ohio third grade English Language Arts assessment in paper format for the 2024-2025 school year. Again, this was discussed earlier this evening at our work session. It's an annual resolution to opt out of the online, or opt in rather, for the paper testing. Because this is their first exposure to the test, and our teachers believe that they respond better to the paper testing. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, call the roll, please.
We need a motion.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider approving a resolution to purchase 1,700 HP, is that 11 or 2?
11.
HP 11 G9EE Chromebooks for $290.45 each, for a total of $493,765 from Staples, using a combination of grant funding and permanent improvement funding. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And then the grant funding that was discussed earlier at the work session is some of the remaining ESSER funds that we are required to spend down by the end of September, was it?
That's correct.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. May I have a motion authorizing the purchase of competitive retail electric service for the billing period commencing with the December 2024 billing cycle and terminating no later than the December 2027 billing cycle?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. And consider a resolution approving the procurement of light poles and lights from NGU Sports Lighting for the stadium at Centerville High School through the participation in a competitively solicited cooperative contract through Sourcewell. Permanent improvement funds will be used for the project.
Move.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Sternbach?
Yes. Are there any final comments regarding pastoral business from the Board of Education?
Go vote tomorrow.
Tomorrow is election day.
I would like to thank everybody that worked so hard on the levy, and we encourage everyone to go to the polls and vote.
Anything else? Okay. In that case, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1, may I have a motion that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment and dismissal of public employees of the school district. Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G4, to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G2, to consider the sale and purchase of real property, and Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G5, to discuss matters required to be kept confidential by federal law, federal rules, or state statutes. We have a motion.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Sternbach?
Yes. And we are, and yes, the only thing we will do after the end of executive session is to adjourn. And we are in executive session.